Good morning, students. 7th Standard Science Physics Chemistry Part Unit 3 Changes Around Us. Students, today we discuss about the topic exothermic and endothermic changes. Exothermic and endothermic changes. Students, first we take rinse soap powder and then glucose. Okay, we take soap powder and glucose. Okay, then we take a pinch of soap powder in one hand and a pinch of glucose in the other hand. Okay, add a few drops of water to soap powder. Add a few drops of water to soap powder. How you feel? How you feel upon adding water? Yes, we feel. You feel heat, warmness. Okay, we feel warmness. You feel warmness. But in the pinch of glucose in the other hand, we add a few drops of water to the glucose. How you feel upon adding the water? Yes, we feel, you feel coldness. Okay, why? So students, in soap powder release the heat. Okay, soap powder release the heat energy. Heat is released here, but in glucose heat is absorbed. Okay, heat is absorbed, so you feel coldness. But in here, in soap powder, heat is released, so we feel warmness. Okay, so students, changes in which heat is released are known as exothermic changes. Okay, changes in which heat is released are known as exothermic changes. But changes in which heat is absorbed are known as endothermic changes. Okay, here we see endothermic changes. Okay, so students, in soap powder release heat, glucose absorb heat. How to define exothermic and endothermic changes? What is exothermic changes? Changes in which heat is released are known as exothermic changes. And in endothermic changes, what is endothermic changes? Changes in which heat is absorbed. Okay, heat is absorbed are known as endothermic changes. Okay, okay. Students, see then these exothermic and endothermic changes. What is endothermic changes? Changes in which heat is absorbed. Okay. First, here we see first examples, the particle of solid. Particle of solids, this is the ice cube. Okay. The ice cube is heated, it expands, then becomes liquid. Okay, becomes liquid. Here the heat is absorbed. The solid ice cubes absorb heat energy to liquid. Okay, so ice absorb heat when it melt into water. Okay, the ice absorb heat when it melt into water, so it is a endothermic change. Okay, it is a endothermic change. Okay students, okay, then here the next one, the particles of liquid. This is the water. Okay, for example, this is water. The water is cooled. This here what happened? Contraction. Okay, here contraction, then finally the water becomes solid. Okay, the water becomes solid, ice cubes. Here the heat is released. Okay, heat is released, so it is a exothermic change. Another one example, the particle of gas. It is a gas molecules. Okay, the gas is cooled, cooled, it is also contract, then becomes a liquid. Okay, these two process is the example of exothermic changes. Here the changes in which heat is released. Okay, here heat is released, but here heat is absorbed. So the solid particles is converted into water. Here what happened? The heat is absorbed. So it is a endothermic changes. But here the heat is released. These two process, the heat is released. So these two process is the exothermic changes. So students, be clear now. Changes in which heat is released are known as exothermic changes, but the changes in which heat is absorbed are known as endothermic changes. Students, next we see the topic periodic and non-periodic changes. First, periodic changes. What is periodic changes? Changes that repeat themselves after a definite interval of time are called periodic changes. Okay, changes that repeat themselves after a definite interval of time, this is called periodic changes. Okay, for example, rotation and revolution of earth. For example, rotation and revolution of earth movement. Okay, then beating of a heart, then clock striking every hour, then motion of the second hands, minute hands, or hands of a clock are the examples of periodic changes. These are the periodic changes examples. Okay, students, what is periodic changes? Changes that repeat themselves after a definite interval of time. Changes that repeat themselves after a definite interval of time are called as periodic changes. Okay, this is the periodic changes. The clock movement is a periodic changes example. Students, next we see non-periodic changes. Non-periodic changes. What is non-periodic changes? Changes that do not repeat themselves after a definite interval of time. Definite interval of time. This is called non-periodic changes. Okay, changes that do not repeat themselves after a definite interval of time and occur random. What is random? Not uniform. Okay, random means not uniform. Okay, are called non-periodic changes. What is non-periodic changes? Changes do not repeat themselves after a definite interval of time. This is non-periodic changes. Okay, here we see some examples. Eruption of volcano. Here we see eruption of volcano. This is the sudden movement. This is the sudden process. Okay, this is the sudden process. Eruption of volcano and the occurrence of a earthquake. A streak of lightning flash across the sky during the thunderstorm. Okay, then running of the batsman between the wickets, movement of legs while dancing. These are the examples of non-periodic changes. So students, what is non-periodic changes? Changes that do not repeat themselves after the definite interval of time. Okay, this is the non-periodic changes. Okay students, thank you.